today we get to talk about marketing and yoga. And so we're going to be doing this in a really interactive way. I don't know if all of you are familiar with the ways we all learn a little bit differently, but I'm personally a kinesthetic learner, and that means it's by doing things and practicing them that I really obtain the information and then can apply it. And so my hope for today is that all of you feel that by the end of our little workshop, so we go for about an hour and a half, and I think there's no break, is that right? I just go. Yeah. And so let me just actually make it so it's gallery. Okay. So by the end, the hope is that we'll have taken a sample class, probably the one that you'll be working on for your final and the theme that you're doing for that final, and practicing marketing it. And so we just already, I was thinking we could start with a prayer and a meditation today, but we just did that wonderful experience. So I think I'll just go ahead and start right into a little bit more about what brought me to marketing and how I have had some guidance from Swamiji that I just feel to share with all of you. So back in 2012, I wrote Swamiji a letter asking him about marketing and asking, because at the time, a lot of people at Ananda weren't really comfortable with the idea of marketing. And he said, well, as Swamiji would, without telling us what to do, but giving a little suggestion, he said, you might want to read my chapter on advertising and material success through yoga principles. He said, I think that would be very helpful to you. And so I went and read that, and then right away, I started having these opportunities start arising where different devotees and parts of Ananda village were needing marketing. And my background wasn't in marketing. I don't know about any of you. Does anybody here have a marketing degree or communications? Just raise your hand if you do. Okay, cool. So I was just like that. And what happened is that over time, through that attunement with Swamiji and Master, the guidance started to come about how do we market the yoga of marketing, or how do we market from our path? Like, what is the way that Swamiji or Master would have shared Ananda or the teachings or this path of Kriya Yoga and self-realization? But how do we relate to people? Because a lot of marketing is really just determining how do you speak soul to soul. And some of the things that Swamiji left in that chapter for all of us, which if you can obtain, it's really wonderful, are just simple things like we should do things dharmically. We should share a vibration. We should do it with joy. We've been talking about that a lot, making it fun. And throwing in, of course, some art and science of what is effective these days and what do we know and how do we strategize and be successful, because our path is a beautiful blend of East and West. So it's spirituality and the depth of our teachings that we're sharing and attunement to the light. And we match this with the practical strategies that are proven effective and the science of marketing. And there is a lot of science out there. And I have a mixture of being self-taught as well as being taught a little bit in public health school. But I always joke that I was taught by the best for how to market for good. So public health means, how do you help people change their behaviors so they're better? They have a better life, better well-being. So one of the most amazing things that I learned is how Master meant to bring in a science where we use the art and the science, so our intuition and our creativity, as well as things that we know to be true through experience of our own, or through, in Ananda, a place like this, the community and experience of others. So all that is to say that over the last 13 years, I've been really fortunate to market not only Ananda Village, I've worked all over the country. I've pretty much helped every single center in America with their marketing plans and strategies, including meditation groups. I've done workshops in all of the leadership course. I've gone to Assisi and helped them do marketing plans. I've worked in Oregon, and I've had the blessing of helping Jyotish and Davy with their marketing for 12 years, including that Touch of Light blog and Jyotish's art. And one of the things that I wanted to communicate with all of you is this really important point that Jyotish has taught me since the very beginning, which is it is about connecting the soul to soul, which I saw you all nod about that earlier. But just to reiterate, he also communicated to me. By the way, he was the first one to tell me to get on Instagram before everybody else was, because of his ability to soul intuit and perceive. And I didn't listen. So always listen to Guruji through your channels. But it was the idea that, you know, treat each person on the other end of everything that you're putting out there as a friend. So, you know, when Swamiji writes about this, he used to write, when he was doing his books, he would visualize the person that he was communicating to at the point between the eyebrows. And he would feel the words come that this soul needed to hear. And I think we all know that it could have been one soul or it could have been many souls, but he would sometimes write a whole book or a song just for one person. And the other thing that, you know, we all want to understand as we go out into the world and share yoga classes or meditation classes, or many of you even beyond that, you could think about this in relation to Amrita, even just the online teacher training programs or in person. And just thinking about what, you know, what are the needs of people? Going back to Dharma and service and attunement, as Swamiji shares in his chapter, how am I going to help people with what I do share? And so as long as we come to marketing with those things in mind, we should be all right. And so I think what I'll start now is having you all use that chat box feature. And I would just love to see, when it comes to today's, you know, time together, what do you feel are going to be the biggest challenges for you with marketing? And what do you think are going to be the biggest strengths? And it sounds like many of you perhaps don't have any history or degrees, but I'm sure all of you have some experience with either social media, visiting websites, you know, flyers, word of mouth, anything that you can think of with relation to marketing. Maybe you've helped the center you're at, or you've helped share on WhatsApp posts. So maybe just take a moment and just think a bit about, what do you feel like are your strengths, and what do you feel like are going to be some of the challenges that you have ahead of you?
So, strengths as in strengths. Hi, Kalamali. Soon here. So, strengths as in strengths in marketing, Ananda Yoga, or in general? I mean,
That's a good question, just with reference to marketing for now. However, you could say your strengths are in being nurturing, because, you know, yeah, it's just think about, you know, even if you have strengths as a person in daily life, perhaps we could translate those to your marketing activities. I'll put some in as well and give some examples. So let's see, enthusiasm, creativity, conversions, yeah. I have a little question for you, Sunu. When it does come to getting people in the room, if you were to take that a step further, do you feel that is your ability to communicate what you really are offering, like your gifts? Or do you feel it's the business side of pricing, or how hard it is physically for people to get places? I'd love to hear more about that. Some strengths from Sonal. Honesty and sincerity. I love that. Yeah, that's really good. That's a big part of what Swamiji was warning people against in advertising. At the time that he wrote this, it was worse than now, but just how people will make stuff up to get, you know, people in the room. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about this a bit more. Sonal, you mentioned perceived weakness. That is a really important thing to know, because we don't realize that our own magnetism is affecting our success as much as it can with regards to people coming to class. So introspection around that and knowing how to do some counter affirmations or visualizations will be really important. And Ananda Pune has, you can also type your name if you're in a group, and then I'll know, but empathy, excellent. So communicating heart to heart. Nara's having a jam over there. Communicating heart to heart. Yeah, and somebody else wrote that in as well, empathy and great communication. That's really important because I think a lot of you probably know this, but if you're communicating to people's minds, what do you think makes people act? What do you think really makes them take a next step? Is it their mind? Oh, that stat was awesome. I'm going to change my life. That stat just really did it for me. Or that fact. I just love that fact. That science, that article. That's it. It's usually a heart thing. It's the emotion, but high emotion as in devotion and expressing that kindness and making people want to come because of that soul to soul connection. And then another one here is how marketing requires energy or money, resources. So how do we, especially with at Ananda, you're going to find this coming up a lot. I see this every single person I've worked with, even people who have a lot of finances. It's a common issue. What do I put my resources into? How do I make things happen with very little time? So we'll talk about that a bit more when we get to strategy. And then choosing. There's so many options out there, right? Yeah, you could go in so many different directions. Probably exponential because we have the internet, which just goes on and on. Probably it's infinite. We just don't realize it yet. So being able to decide based on our strategization that we'll go through the exercises, that will really help with how do you prioritize? And then our content. Yes, our content is excellent. I make this joke a lot. So we talk a lot in communications about what are the core values or what are the things that do engage with people's heart. And what you find is that these companies like Nike have hit on it. Have you ever seen a Nike ad where it's like they're pumping, they're doing things, they're free, they're like connected with all beings, and then they're like, and it's a shoe. But we get to say, we are actually doing what those material things say they're going to help you with. Have you ever seen a Bliss yogurt ad? Where they're like, this yogurt is going to give you bliss. But it's not. We all know that. But what we're really helping with people is the dharmic truth of actually practicing meditation, yoga, and going deeper into a spiritual teaching will help you feel more free, united with others. Union is yoga. And now we just have to communicate it in a way that relates to people. Just remember that nowadays, a lot of people are using buzzwords that are spiritual. So just never being too shy to experiment with your language is a really good one. So content, yes. And we'll get a little bit more into this later, but content and the amazing things that you can do with giving content and also then using that as part of that funnel that Lata was talking about is really important. So great point, Amrita. Strength from Janani, wanting to share the joy that I've experienced on the path. Amazing. It's just so true. People can feel that. And I think I was just reading something from Master about to Swamiji about how we need to, what was I reading today? Anyway, it was in one of the books from our path about how he would communicate through his eyes, spiritual, his autobiography of Yogi. Babaji was talking to Master. He said, through your eyes, people will receive spiritual vibrations and change. So through you sharing joy, people will change. It's just like why they say kindness is contagious or a smile is contagious. In fact, there's lots of evidence around what makes something go viral these days. It is things that make people laugh, that bring them joy. They want to share a story that touched their heart. Those are all the things that you guys have mentioned are already your strengths. So well done. Now I can go. Just kidding. But then we have your experience, right? So what we hear a lot of times from people is, oh, you can just tell you're authentic and you're doing what you're telling us to do. We all know how important that is for our magnetism, right? So when Amrita and Lata tell us we need to be practicing yoga, we do. If we want to have a very magnetic draw to other souls, if we want to teach meditation, or if we want to share joy, we probably need to be joyful, right? So those are the kinds of things that will increase your success. So already you guys have a great start. And Ankita, you put in patience and calmness. I might have a follow-up question for you, which is about, is patience the strength and calmness both strengths?
Yeah, they are both strengths.
Excellent. Very good. So one thing that I really like about that with relation to communicating is that shows somebody who can observe what is working and what isn't without attachment and adjust things really effectively because of that, and be patient to see the results that they're looking for. A lot of people make the mistake of trying something, not giving it enough energy, thinking it didn't work. But if you were a scientist, you couldn't run a study that way. You have to have a controlled variable as well as the variable of choice that you're experimenting with to actually see what is really making something work or not work. And the other thing about that is a lot of people don't want to be open to some other strategy that actually is more effective with what they want to give and share. And you'll hear me use the word a lot, share. At the village, I was a part of a really big campaign we did for a while called Share Ananda. And it was basically rebranding what is marketing for our own people. Because I think I mentioned at the beginning, there was a lot of resistance around marketing at first because people felt like it was promoting ourselves, right? And we don't do that as yogis. And so we actually took time and went back through every book of Swamiji's, and every bit that had something to do with sharing and communicating on behalf of Master, it's in a PDF. I'm going to put it in the chat in a bit. It's called Share Ananda. And it's just every single quote from Swamiji and Master on the importance of sharing God, especially in this world, and how it helps you as a soul and how to do it in the right vibration. The other thing that, just while I'm on that topic, that I'll be sharing with you are some of those key points that Swamiji wrote about in advertising. That's a nice summary for what does it mean to be marketing and be a spiritual yogi. So those are the things that we learned during that time that are really helpful for all of you as well. And then another one from Arundhati, strengths. Apologies, by the way, my American accent. I know I'm not doing your beautiful names justice, so please coach me on that at any point. Empathy and great communication, wonderful. Challenges is competition, excellent. So we'll address that in a bit when we get to the niche. And strengths, more strengths, creativity and connecting with the audience. That is excellent. That will take you farther than most strategies and science will. The people that I see doing really well know how to connect. They know how to make friends. And honestly, you have to put in a lot of energy to keep friends coming. You don't realize some of the best yoga classes, most, magnetic yoga classes I've seen are the ones who the yoga teacher is there for people in the class and outside the class, respectfully, like we talked about yesterday, from their center, but they just share patience, calmness, kindness, joy, and they do it from that place of attunement. So, but they don't leave people, and they also do little things to stay in touch and continuing to share that vibration outside of that little time. Now, I'm really big on sharing ideas, but then you have to decide what's really doable in your daily life. So when you're feeling willing to serve, like Ankita, you're saying here, that willingness is extremely important, but a lot of us also tend to want to do many, many things. And then we get scattered and we have to bring ourselves back. So we're going to launch into this little exercise for the rest of the class. And the idea is that it's going to help you say, okay, I want to do this. I'm going to do it with attunement. I'm going to focus on one thing and I want to do it really well. And then I'm going to build on that. So we're going to I'll just read the last two. So strength, friendly and connecting with heart to heart. Excellent. And it's all about how you make people feel. So that just reiterates, I think, the last point that I was sharing, that it's really important that you know how to connect with your classroom, your students, the other souls. So just taking a moment now. Sorry, there's a few weaknesses. Shall I skip them? No, I'm just kidding. How to share about what is Ananda Yoga and the path in relation to when they walk in the room and feel that, or see, as we all know, they see the masters on the wall, and finding the right match. Okay, excellent. So this is all going to be now what we're going to work on together. So just take a moment and close your eyes and sit upright. And I want you to feel that you're making that connection now to Guruji, to the light, to Divine Mother, and ask for that light to inspire and to share in your heart all the words and feelings and strategy as we go about this exercise together, that they will guide you. Feel yourself open and receptive and listening to the heart, and offering it up. We are not the doers. God is the doer through us. Feel yourself moving the ego out of the way and letting something new happen, perhaps something you weren't expecting, as we go deeper into sharing through yoga this ray of light. And now visualize, bringing to mind very clearly a room full of the people you're hoping to reach, the joyful smiles, the open hearts, the energetic, enthusiastic students, those in need, whoever it is, just visualizing them now, filling your room. And see yourself as a channel with calmness, connection, empathy, and kindness, filling the room with light, the light of God. Now watch as the room dissolves into this light. Om. Peace. Amen. Now, I'd love for anyone who feels to share. I just invite you to type in the chat a little bit about the kind of class that came to your mind when you were visualizing, and the kind of people, the students, or maybe the topic. Just taking a moment, you can even close your eyes again, or ask Master or Divine Mother or Spirit just to guide you as you serve, as you do these exercises. We're not going to put any pressure on ourselves, but we're going to enjoy the process. So just taking a moment, I'll type in mine for now. And as you do this, you might even notice that more detail is kind of coming as you start writing, or as you open up more and more to the idea in your visualization. So I just wrote a little bit about something that Nara and I might do, or just me, or perhaps him. And I'm just going to take a moment to ask Divine Mother to flow through all of you. we're really just channels for this work of Babaji through this lineage and uniting East and West and helping more people find these teachings so that they can start on their journey back into the light. And when you're ready to share with the class, with our fellow Guru Bhais, yoga teachers in training, devotees, just feel you can share with each other in that chat box or aloud. So Nara and I have a daughter, she's autistic ADHD, and so I actually practiced teaching her today. Woo. She was mostly trying to teach me. And healthcare workers, Nara also shared. Oh, beautiful. Counting your blessings, gratitude for God and our strengths. That's beautiful. Good job. Nice. Very nice, Sonal. We're really close to graduating, and I know some of you are already really out there sharing, but just for those of us who are going to really launch more fully into this, just what a gift. Like Diana started this course off reminding us this is a gift. This is such a gift. Ooh, a meditation group, Janani. That's awesome. That's excellent. That's really good for you to clarify too. Did you see how clear and direct that was? It's very specific. Another thing that can be very helpful in marketing. Okay, you all are welcome to keep typing. I will take a moment to actually drop in the chat those handouts I mentioned earlier. Ooh, that's neat. I love that. Ankita wrote in about visualizing an entire classroom full of like yogis reaching that state of bliss, which is, you know, stillness. Beautiful, just beautiful. Excellent. Regulating emotions through yoga. That is awesome. That is such a relevant one. What's really neat about this one, which we'll have fun with throughout this exercise, Sunu, this is something you see a lot in the corporate or just, families, is how do I get along with people? Just raise your hand if you've heard people say that's why they're there to learn yoga or meditation. Yeah, a lot of people, when I did a survey at work to see why people would want to learn meditation, that was the #1 reason. Arundhati wrote, show people that yoga is beyond just the physical benefits. It also has spiritual benefits. So that's a really good lead into what kind of content you might be circling around. Excellent. Okay, now we have a really strong visual in place and we feel it in attunement with the divine guiding us. So now we can move on to the next bit. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize about Yogananda is that he was William the Conqueror, and the first thing he did when he was uniting England's kingdom and had achieved that through all those years of war was a survey, which we all call the census. And that was the first thing Yogananda did as a king, was go out and do some research of his people. And so I just want to tell you that because it's really important to understand that we always want to balance that. We want to, do our background research on these audiences and how we can share this content to show people what yoga is really about. We want to communicate the, benefits of how it can help regulate emotions or help people who are neurodivergent with sensory regulation, or healthcare workers with their well-being. But, how do we go about doing, like, where do we start? And so a really simple thing that you can do that's based on what Yogananda showed us is starting to look at surveying what's already around you. And a lot of you know this term niche. And that is really what is making what you have to offer so different from everybody else. Now, another thing I might even tell some of you is, if you've got a really clear and specific idea, put it down, great, experiment with it, and then see, as people come in the door, you never stop researching. You want to get in the habit of asking people how they found you, what they're looking for. That form we filled out with the medical questionnaire is a really good place to put that. What is bringing you to the class, and what are you hoping to learn, or what are the outcomes and benefits you think this will bring you? And it's just an opportunity to also ask, how did you hear about us? So one of the things that we'll talk about a bit further on are some of those really specific ideas that have to do with the funnel, which is very effective in marketing strategies. But just for now, let's go back to what is going to make you unique, and how do you kind of get to know that? So I'll share an example because I find storytelling to be a bit more easy to remember. Back when I was working with, do you all know the Joy Singers? It was the group that Swamiji put together to share music. Some of you might have heard their albums. So they were just really struggling to live up to Swamiji's hope for music to just get out in Los Angeles, and for more devotees of Master to feel the vibration of Ananda through the music. And also, he just wanted people at large to feel God through these songs. And so one of the things that they were trying to do is to really figure out, well, how do we start reaching people? What are we going to say? How are we going to make it, communicate it through our look and our website and the feel, the colors, the text? You all know all those little things you see when people are doing their branding. That's what they mean when they say brand. It's the icons, the logos, the imagery you use, the videos you put together, and scripts. But it all goes back to, what are you trying to say that will appeal to someone's heart, and it fits with what you're trying to share? So we always talk about it's a bridge. You don't want to be like this. Whoop. You want to meet people where they're at and bring them to the next level. So no matter what you're doing, whether it's working with yogis, working with people who are very deep devotees, or healthcare workers or children, you just need to know how you're going to communicate and what language you're going to be using with people that will work. So the ways we look at that and we match it to what we're sharing as the vibration or brand is by doing this little exercise where you start, we all do it. We kind of Google around, we look and we see, you start looking at other websites. So we did this with the Joy Singers. We looked at the other, really well-known choirs of spiritual groups like Agape. That's a huge LA place that their choir gets like thousands of people because they launched something that other people really related to, and that was really successful. So we looked at that, and then we looked at, well, what is it that's different? Well, Agape was trying to really communicate love, and their whole thing was about feel the love, feel the connection, which is awesome. Well, the Joy Singers, what do you think they might have been communicating? Joy? It's in their name. So Swamiji named them really well, because in marketing, sometimes you just want the name of your class to be exactly what the benefit is. Like Sunu, you put, that's like you name the class what it's going to give people. It's totally fine to call things Ananda yoga classes, but just something to think about is, will someone know what that means right away? I know that's an issue for us in Australia because more people really don't know what it is. They've never heard of, there's no Ananda yoga teachers here. I don't know if everybody knows that. We're going to be the first that are practicing Ananda yoga here. There's not even yoga studios on every corner. In California, they were everywhere. People don't even really know much about yoga. So how are we going to meet people where they're at? How did the Joy Singers decide to find the right people? So they started looking for like-minded groups that were looking for upliftment and joy in their venues and in what they wanted to receive from a singing group. And then we went through and we redid their entire website, their entire email, their entire social media to be images of light and expansion and anything that feels those colors of joy, fonts that express joy. You know those fonts that are really heavy looking? We even tried it with we always test everything we do as well. We tried putting some like kind of surferish look on some of our stuff, and people were like, that's not the right vibe. But it's just so subtle, but it's always worth testing a few things. Now, if you're representing Ananda, like your center or your place, there's a really important website that we all have access to as members of Ananda. It's called Notia or something. Notion. Thank God you were here. So it's got all this Share Ananda things that you could find helpful. Fonts already provided for you from the graphic designer at Ananda. Website templates set up. You know, everything that you could think of with pictures. We have a whole stock photo website called Ananda Stock. And the idea is that that already kind of helps you with somebody else already doing the legwork for you. Yeah, colors. Now, the other thing is going back to if you're looking around and trying to figure out what makes you unique, you will also see things that people do that you really like. I find it very helpful to get a feel for what other teachers are doing really well. And one of the things that I've learned is the ones that seem to have a really good, strong connection with people have a very loving and enthusiastic kind of tone. Now, nowadays we have those AIs. Has anyone here noticed the AIs have options for emotional expression? Like very enthusiastic or playful or very serious and articulate. So we have to think like an AI as we're writing our content. So for Sunu, if you're going to be working with a corporate person, you know, you're probably going to need to have content that fits the way they speak. When we work with the healthcare workers, we are citing articles, we are sourcing research. Everything we say needs to come from a place of evidence. Otherwise, they think we're hokey pokeys. And so, yeah, so we have to be very aware. And that's another part of surveying the population that you want to work with. So you know your why. So that's going to become what we call like our vision. You know your mission is to be a successful yoga studio or center. And then you know that your, target audience, they appeared to you in your vision. So guess what? That's like 3 out of the 6 steps in marketing that I'm going to talk about. So you've already done the first 3. Now it's about so we've done our little survey and we've seen what other people are doing. We've seen other strengths. You know how we started off today with what are strengths and weaknesses? Take your weaknesses and look at what people are doing the opposite well. So if you felt like your weakness was going to be getting people in the door, find people who are doing that successfully and look and study their strategy. I learned so much by studying the best people out there. At one point, I don't really understand how this happened, but I somehow ended up working, I guess Guru's grace, right? With these YouTube influencers, and they have 2.5 and rising million subscribers. They're called Boho Beautiful. And the woman who does that channel told me that every day she asks in meditation what she can do to serve today. Can you imagine? She makes every bit of content with that inspiration in her heart. How can I help somebody today? So when you sit down to do your marketing, you should have that same feeling. You should never underestimate. I've had Master blessing me when I am doing search engine optimization, keyword research. What? That doesn't even make sense. But as you're sitting there typing in Google terms to see which ones are the best, Master's blessing you. What does that tell you? He's in everything. Babaji's in the internet. You've probably heard it all the time. A devotee found you through Facebook, or they saw a video, or that you hear those stories all the time. Even just sharing autobiography of a yogi, people receive it. I know some of you probably have a story about that even, but guess what kind of marketing that is? Soul to soul, friendship, acts of kindness, giving. That's, they in marketing, they call that content marketing. Now, just something about that strategy is that Google changed everything so that if you want to show up in the engine, guess what the criteria are on your website or your social media account? It's how many people you're connecting with, actively engaging. So that's that friendship we talked about. So I'm just trying to simplify marketing because it's going to come down to a few things in the end, right? And then they said, who was really helpful? Who actually wrote on their website and linked to even other people that could help? Or who took the time to really answer questions for people? So there was this moment when I had an inspiration to write an article on the benefits of sesame seed oil. Swamiji said, do not ignore a true inspiration. You must act on it so more can come through you. The more you act on inspiration, the more you will draw, and you will start finding the magnetism of what you're doing just completely expanding. And I felt to write this article. Somehow it went viral, and I started getting 500 people a week on this little tiny blog because they wanted to learn about sesame seed oil benefits. And so what does that tell us? If you're doing this with the right feeling in the heart, you will find that you can start seeing that success. And it's that idea of creating content that your audience wants. So the blog that I had was just these spiritual tips for daily life. One of the things we found when we were researching all the content across Ananda, things that did the best, how to concentrate and focus for students, right? And everybody else at work. Another one, quotes on happiness. Another one, let's see, like happiness tips. And then we did another thing where we researched, why do people come to Ananda in general? And actually, the top ones were like health and healing, meditation, and the last ones were like relationships and these sorts of things. But the idea was that we created a way to get that information. So science is a really important part of what you'll be doing. The other thing a lot of you might have heard about is, A/B testing or sending out an email. I don't make it complicated. Every time about once a month, I go back and I look, what was the most popular thing I did? What was the most popular touch of light post we did? What was the most popular, what's the other ones we do? Like Peru or something? Yeah, like what was the most popular video that we released from Peru? But it's usually things that people are asking Google or they're asking YouTube. And we did research, for the expanding light and for Gyanda, for his yoga. Do you want to know why people were signing up for yoga teacher training at Ananda Village? Was not for the yoga, it was for the spiritual community. We would never have known that or guessed that if we didn't ask people. The other thing that we did was we surveyed students' families at the school, at Living Wisdom School. We put a little piece of paper on their chair. So if you guys had a center, right? Just before people leave, at the end of service, have them fill out a little card on their chair, like what classes are you most interested in? Have them rank it. Or on the website, have a pop-up, whatever. And they are saying things like, the reason I chose this school for my child, they could have chosen philosophy of the yoga philosophy in the school, personalized learning, curriculum success of the students. You want to know their top choice was, this place is a beautiful setting for my child's school. They loved the nature for the Ananda Village School. So the main reason people came there was for the nature. Who would have known that? So then we had to rebrand all of their school website to show the beautiful pictures of the nature. And the other thing you have to think about is, as you're doing your research, use your gut feeling, your intuition to say, that's not right. Because you might have worded a question wrong or asked the audience of people that aren't really the right audience. Or you always have to think outside the box. One of the things that we were trying to determine at the Expanding Light was, why do people come to the retreats? And we found out that it's because they're at a certain place in life. And this will translate to your yoga audience as well. They're in a place of transition, they're traveling, or they want to become a teacher themselves. So they want to start learning and getting good at what you have to offer, because they one day might do it as well. So the transition thing is really interesting. So how many of you have noticed, like, people wanting, like, friends, family, maybe students, if you're Amrita, for example, who end up in your courses or at your new job, or they've started, reaching out because they're in a place of transition? Or maybe for you, like, what brought you on a spiritual path, or what brought you to start a yoga teacher training? A lot of people, it's because they've hit a moment in life where they're like, I need to, go further up, or I want to change something. So when you're looking at how do you communicate to that heart, you need to speak to the person inside that's going through something. And that's why Swamiji's books, one of his most popular books was Money, Magnetism, and Art of Supportive Leadership. Jyotish's How to Meditate book. Those titles are really straightforward. What do you want? What can I give you? So if you want to help someone because they're going through, how do I deal, like with the healthcare workers? They're like, I am too busy to do anything, but I need help. So we have to speak to that. So I suggest that one of the things that you do before you start marketing and spending any money, please do not spend money just thinking it'll work. I have had lots of success doing nothing with money, okay? Just studying what people are looking for and putting it on my website, putting it in the titles, making a little blog post, putting it in my emails, putting it on social media. I have seen so many people just use Instagram and become very wealthy and successful. And it's just because they create content that relates to people and the needs of those people. But guess what? We talked about brand and vibration. Well, one of the things Davey told me is, when you do Touch of Light pictures, I want it to feel light. I want there to be light. That's in the title of her blog. So of course that fits the vibration. She also said diversity. I want people to know this is for anybody and any part of life and any country in the world. So they tell me their core values, and that's on their social media, as well as their blog imagery and videos that we choose and content we link to. We don't link to like really random sites. We link to Ananda websites and things that can help people go deeper. That's because that fits with the vibration that they're putting out. So if you're working with healthcare workers, we would probably want to, link to some of those articles. But all of that's just really easy nowadays when you build your own little website portfolio. But if that financially is too hard, they've done a study on what is the most important thing. Is it a website or is it socials? How many of you think it was socials? Hands up. Versus website? Hands up for website. Yeah, they did a study and they took off websites for some of the major companies and they did not drop business. It was when they took away the socials. Socials are also 60% of sales now. Now in America and in Australia, we're able to do things with, if you guys ever want to check it out on Jyotish's art Instagram, all of his paintings are on his Instagram. How do you do that? Well, you find a website platform that syncs with social media. We're able to use something called Square. I do not know if that's there over there, but there might be something similar. Nowadays, it's all about how do I make this easy and most effective with very little resources. So if you're gonna get online and you're gonna spend that time putting up your own website or Instagram, really keep it simple and practical. If you don't have time to deal with a website, just do Instagram. Guess what? Nowadays, you can create plugins that send people right to your booking system, like Calendly or Zoom. Just be creative with how you do it so that you don't have to pay a lot of money. You should team up, think about teaming up with other people, whatever it is you can do to make it practical. So if you have a little Instagram going where you're sharing about your classes that you're offering, or you decide to do a website, doesn't matter which one, it's still going to be important that you think about search engine optimization. The reason I always reiterate this with people, now what is that? Sorry, for anyone who doesn't know, that is when people find you without really meaning to find you, or they're looking for something like yoga class near me, and your Google profile business pops up. Google Maps and Google profile, you know, where that you show up in the search because you've taken the time to create a profile for your business, that's free. And guess what? Google wants to help people. The most common ways people use the search engine is by location and near me. So, you know, you're all dealing with people that don't want to go in traffic. Whoever the people are that you're trying to reach, they don't want to deal with traffic. So virtual, near me, those are probably going to be your biggest ones. The other thing we found, just as far as needs of your audience, you'll have to decide and do some little bit of your own experimenting. But there's over 400,000 people Googling how to deal with pain and fatigue every month. 400,000 people who are dealing with pain, back pain and neck pain especially, depression, anxiety, but so many people are dealing with chronic fatigue. Now, one thing about Ananda yoga and joy and what you guys have talked about, connection, think of how that battles all of those things, all of them. So if you're going to create content and you're making it like around what are these people dealing with, I highly suggest you find a few people in your mind who represent that audience and either question them just about what they would be looking for, what they're dealing with, or just think about conversations you've had with friends who are similar to the audience of your choice. So I want to take a moment now to go back to if any of you would like to share some ideas that have been coming up for you while we've been talking about how you're going to represent your class and build that bridge, knowing what their needs are. Just so you know, this is 4 times more effective than just telling people about your class. It is so important. I shouldn't use the word hate. I highly dislike when spiritual devotees market information and not inspiration. In fact, I wrote a book. It is called The Yoga of Marketing, Inspiration Over Information. Do not do a video on an ad. You gotta be like, what do people want to learn? What are they dealing with? Don't make it about yourself and what you offer, please. That is so 80s marketing. Millennial times are all about 5 tips for de-stressing right now, or my favorite recipes. Some people are becoming very popular and all they do is share recipes. So think about your people and this class content or theme that you've shared with me, and type a few ideas that have come to you already. Maybe a blog example, maybe a social media vibration. But I really suggest all of you take that time to start seeing what other people are doing after this or after our course, seeing what are the best Instagram accounts that are similar to what you're doing, what is making them really strong, what are their strategies. You don't have to study marketing to like notice that somebody uses live reels or they use stories every day. Just think about who you watch and what do they do. So that's a really strong, piece of advice. Because I do work with like people like Jyotish and Devi, I always have to ask them, what are their goals? What is their vision? They tell me this all the time. I do not care about numbers. I want to reach the right people. You know, there have been so many people that try to change Jyotish and Devi's marketing. And the reason that they still work with me is because I do not change the way they communicate. We only care about vibration. So it's not about numbers, it's about a feeling. But the right people find them. And there's another article called 1,000 True Fans. And essentially it's, if you can reach 1,000 people that are like you, how many people are there in the world? 8 billion almost, right? We're just like, if you can find 1,000 people that connect with what you're doing, and remember, nowadays you can do stuff online to supplement your in-person. But you just need 1,000 people that really vibe with what you're sharing, and you're speaking to them. And once you find those 1,000 true fans, they say you will be successful in everything. That's a bit like what the Touch of Light does. So they've got books that come out every once in a while. They've got weekly blogs. They have, you know, they're invited all over the world to talk. Jyotish and Devi have always been taken care of by God. Always. Always, always, always. You know, so there's nothing to fear, but you have to work with God or light or divine, your higher self. That's just really important. So has anyone felt to type in the chat any little ideas that have come up? Because we can talk a bit more about them. If you have any questions about your ideas right now, let's use the last bit of time to work on them. And then I want you to finish with a little exercise on timelining and your goals as soon as you're done with your course for launching your marketing. And then we'll end with a really fun affirmation from Swamiji. So if we want to use this last half hour, we're going to, yes?
Yeah, Kalamali, hi, dear. I wanted to, ask, you have the biggest experience. We are in ashram, in the retreat center. And we are representing not only Ananda Yoga, but a Kriya Yoga, Children Club, and a lot of things. So what do you think? Is it good everything have in one Instagram account or Facebook, or it should be separately everything for marketing, or how it's better? Because it's very difficult to do marketing in one account with different
Yes.
Activities.
Yes, you're so right. So Swamiji said once, every book, which is a topic or a vibration of teaching I have written, should be its own department. It should not be a department that is like a how do you explain this? Like instead of a book department, it should be a department on all the education content, all of it, schools, books, music for the kids, service for kids. And then if you take like meditation, well, that should be retreats, books, music, talks. So yeah, I would highly suggest, and we do this, I have like 12 Instagram accounts or something silly. I go through a lot of phases. I went through a phase where I made a Yay Day campaign and did all this social media around Yay. Because, nowadays people put hats on their head that say no. And the idea is like, yay, no, we're not doing no, we're doing yay. So just changing, people's energy. But yeah, get creative. There's lots of things you can even do. We used to look at, what accounts there weren't visible in the Ananda world yet, because everyone was doing Ananda this, Ananda this. But people don't search necessarily for that. They're looking for Yogananda. They're looking for autobiography of a yogi. They're looking for spiritual quotes, meditation Sydney. There's a lot of people that, they do it by location and what they're offering. So I highly suggest experimenting with that. There's people that all they do is positivity, and then they mix it with quote, then they do a class, or they highlight an event or a retreat they're going to hold. If you want to do like Kriya Yoga Pune, there's nothing wrong with trying a few different things, but just be mindful that since you're sharing space with lots of devotees working in different areas, you want to always have a way to share information securely and safely and organize it. A lot of people that, if you're working in a group setting, it's really important to have a very simple, nice way to keep things in one place if you're working on projects together. And a lot of people I've seen at Ananda start social media accounts, and then somebody leaves to go to another center, and then they can never use it. It's such a bummer too, because they put so much time and energy. So just be really mindful of that as you get going. But yes, experiment.
And another one, when few teachers doing together the classes, like 3-4 teachers may be together, because in the retreat center, it's not possible to have only one teacher. Yeah, it's more few 3-4 teachers most time they're together doing the Ananda yoga classes. So it should be showing the face that teachers in the Instagram account or something, or how it's better to show them, like we have not only one teacher but more teachers, and you can choose, or that part, how it's better represent. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question. You want to have that balance. So like, it does help, because we talked in the beginning about friendship, right? And even Swamiji admitted, he said, you know what? I tried to keep my face off of ads. Didn't work. Nobody came. They were relating to me. And so that's part of what we shared with people, to help them understand that it's okay to have your own Instagram account. It's okay to, like, Diana has one now. Devarshi has one now. Swamiji had one. When he was alive, we started his page. Yeah. Nara's just adding about, as you strategize, with teachers and centers, and just remembering to tag each other even. I always set up with people when we work in a team, a document that says, what's our vibe? What are the values that we're sharing? What's the main audience for these different, like if you have multiple projects and strategies running, you need to really have it to paper where people can see it and they can strategize with you. And share that account, because it's got a post. Like if I do a post for Jyotish and Devi on autobiography of a yogi, I'm always be sure to tag the publishing companies and the accounts about AY that are from Ananda. It's just, you have to learn to share the joy. So tagging is sharing the joy and sharing the magnetism. Great question. So back to that anyway. Sorry, I got sidetracked. But what you want to do is really focus on the content, but relate it back to a person. So it's about the this class. One of the things we studied before, by the way, was what would help more parents come. This class is during evening, but after school we will have childcare for you while you come to our yoga class. How many people would come if you did that? So just thinking in those ways. A public health strategy we always looked at was, if people aren't doing your intervention, which in this case would be coming to your class, why? What are the obstacles that they're dealing with that you need to help them remedy? If it's traffic, virtual. Like do virtual 4 times a week, once a month in person. Australia, the thing we have to deal with constantly, everybody is like bajillion miles away or kilometers. We are as big as the US and we have like 25 active members. Like we're all over. So we just decided we're doing 1 or 2 retreats a year in person, virtual this amount, and then we do local groups. But you have to figure that out and then communicate it really effectively. So I'm going a bit off track because I have a tendency with helping Ananda, things like that. I get really excited about it. But yeah, does anyone have other questions or thoughts about what they'll be doing?
Kalamali, one question. So I was just thinking, the place where at least I'm operating, we have a lot of yoga offerings around, and the biggest challenge is that we also have yoga teachers who can come home and just teach the asanas. Now, as somebody who has been on the path, I know that what Ananda Yoga has to offer on top of what uh, only the asanas do. But then, any thoughts on how to differentiate
Yeah, it's an excellent question.
Get this
Apologies, it's breaking out.
obvious.
You might have to type it in the chat because it's breaking up a bit.
And
Sorry,
too
dear.
many choices here, too many things.
Yes, okay, so
Okay.
that's an important research question. Is we in public health, they call this informative interviewing. Why? Because it gives you information by interviewing people. So it's really easy. You just start calling and talking to those people at service or any gatherings that you have or an email list. Now I have to constantly incentivize these sorts of things. We give out little coupon codes. We've done little trivia things where then if to get people to come to things, we've sent out a free mug. We will send out like Jyotish art, things like that for filling out a survey. People are people. We're all very busy. Just think of fun ways to give back so that when you're receiving energy from them, they're more likely to want to give you that feedback. Or I know it's funny, but Diksha in her little courses of spiritual counseling or MTT, she gives you like a star if you find a typo. And then you like collect these stars, but they don't really do anything. But like a lot of people just like getting a star. I know with RT, it's like to get her to do her routine, we give her like a sticker. So just think of things like that. Like anyone who stays after the class to help us with this little, we're just trying to get information for how to improve. Yeah, we'll give you like a little, if you have like overstock, you can give them something like that. And just for those of you who are out there kind of doing like meditation groups or things with maybe your audience will be more friends and family. Yeah, just think about how can I ask in a really loving way, and then receive that information really openly. And then try to adjust things. You guys might have to rethink. We found we're always experimenting, which could probably be a bit annoying to our Sangha. But we're like, nobody's coming to blank, blank, blank. Why are we doing it like that? Let's just put music practice and tag it on to Sunday service. So now, instead of having a separate practice for choir, we just bring it into Sunday and we make it a sing-along that we have too many new people that don't know the music. So we looked at how do we get more people to come? Well, what are they already engaging in? Who are the right people? What's the need and the benefit that they're looking for? People want to learn the music, but they're shy. They think that if they join choir and come to practice, they need to know how to do music. So you have to think and understand what are the blocks for those people. And if it's that they feel they already know it, well, just, you might find that it's like you need an advanced class offering or something tying it into what a lot of people center-wise do in America is for the Raja Yoga, that's when they get devotees to finally do Ananda Yoga, is they make their classes a bit more expensive because they're putting out more time, but then the sadhana is a part of that, but they finally get yoga asana and they learn pranayama and they do guided meditation. We found that nobody was coming to our live Path of Kriya yoga courses until we started doing just guided meditations with them. All they wanted to do was practice meditating with somebody, but we had to ask. And then we adjust. And every year we relook at what we're doing and we fix it. That's what I meant by earlier when I said, you never stop studying and learning, right? We're all lifelong learners on the path anyway. So it's the same with your marketing every month or every quarter. Like when your kids go on break and you're like, I'm very, very busy because now my kids are home. Well, do the little monthly analysis of what you've been doing right before they go on break. And just, how yesterday we saw that quote in the Ananda Yoga PDF we were looking at, that we are routine, like humans are routine. And for anyone who's starting a new class and time, remember earlier I was saying how important patience was, and you all were saying that would be a strength. And that, why? Another thing, do you know how many, you have to show people information like 7 times before they retain it. Jyotish just talked about it in a renewal retreat. Like, yeah, we're back to that goldfish memory of 2 seconds. that's why we're doing a workshop together, because you're going to probably remember a lot more this way than if I just told you all the evidence and strategies, you know, and told you what makes up a marketing plan. We're doing it because you'll remember. And yeah, show and doing it is really, if you can get people in the door and they experience it, then they can go tell their friends. So if you find little strategies to get into people's minds and memories, using that heart is one of them. Using video to, like, we used to do this with some of the centers in India. We did like virtual tours. Do you all know like Polestar Gardens? It used to be Polestar in Hawaii community. Well, in Hawaii, their whole community volcano erupted and it destroyed their community. And so they had to start completely new. And they asked about, well, what could we do with marketing? And they said, well, we want to draw people that want to have a spiritual life with others. They have kids. They, you know, want to eat healthier. They want to be connected with other spiritual seekers. And I looked at their website and I looked at their emails, and guess what? They didn't communicate any of that. So it's doing an analysis of what you have present, even if for some of you who already are doing the classes, go back and check. Now that you've done that exercise and you know who you want to reach, you know the vibration, you know what you want to communicate are the benefits of what they will receive, go check what you've got and see. Go update your bio that Lata asked us to do yesterday. Did you communicate the qualifications that are going to fit what your audience are looking for? You know, if we are always rewriting our bios depending on our audience, we never use the same bio ever. It's always different, always, depending on the audience. You will find that when you look at your experience that you can offer people, it is very, very awesome and different. And you have a lot of diverse experiences because you are a human with amazing wisdom. And you've probably had experience as a mom with children, or a dad, or you've had like if you're helping people who are learning about self-care, you probably could bring in a story about, you know, if you've ever been a caregiver, if a family member was ill. Like, you have to really think about making it real for people and meeting them in a moment of, oh, that's what I'm dealing with. I trust that person. I still remember reading Autobiography of a Yogi, which in this context is actually considered content, a book or an article or an email or a photo or an Instagram account. That's considered content. So when I read Autobiography of a Yogi, I was building a really strong connection with this vibration of master and truth. And then I wanted to go find Kriya. And then I went and Googled. And then I found a website. And who was on the website? I saw the picture of Yogananda for Expanding Light. So that's because I could make that connection that I chose that place. So that's going to happen to you all as well. And what you need to figure out is, how do you stand out? When you go back to your niche, how do you stand out quickly? So you have to, then when you come up with something for your Instagram, I highly recommend asking a few people, what do they think? We came up with a website the other day, and makes me laugh. Nara's laughing too. We were like so happy we'd done it finally, right? We showed it to my mom and she went click, click, and it was not what we meant for the person to do at all. And I was like, oh no. So you always have to have someone not familiar with your marketing to look at it, and they call it website utility or usability testing. Have you all heard about, like, oh, watching people's eyes track on a website, and oh, then they go to this menu, and oh, then they go here? Just show some friends your content and see if they understand what you're talking about. It's so funny what we think we know what we want to say and that we're saying it. I have found that is so not true. Whenever we do retreats, I'm like, yeah, it's that time for retreats. And they're like, what retreat? I'm like, the one we've been talking about in the last 8 emails and WhatsApp posts and social media. Do you all know what I'm talking about? I see some of you laughing. It's like, did you not see all the work we've put in the last 2 months and you didn't even know we had one? And it's like, yeah, I didn't know, but why? Why is that? What am I doing wrong that I'm not reaching them? what I've realized, and I think I've heard this from Ishani, who you all, of course, probably know. She told me that Narayani and Shurjo were saying to her that they have to write people individually. So one of the things we do to build our class is we spend 10 minutes per person just sharing, how are you doing? What's going on? And people open up, and then guess what? Everybody comes to study group that week, or everybody showed up for meditation. It's because of the energy we're giving them, though. And the friendship. Going back to what Jyotish said. Somebody in Seattle contacted us, and Nara met with them. And he said, well, what are you doing? It's great you have all these ideas. That's great. But what are you doing to like work with the people? It's so important. Like, you can spend hours coming up with a website. Most people don't read your website. That's what I learned. I think I spent a year coming up with our website, our store. Nobody really uses any of that. You know what they use? When I message them and remind them. So I know that's a little disheartening, but it's also incredibly useful information. If you realistically talk to people and figure out and analyze things without any attachment, true yogi, and not getting attached to an idea. I've just learned to let things go that don't work. And we're constantly trying to be creative and do new things. Yes, so one of the questions that popped in it's really great. So when you're trying to target the right people, yeah, when we do our funnel, I promised you I'd talk about funneling. So I'm going to give you an example with Ananda in Australia. We signed up for not-for-profit Google, by the way, which I'm assuming is valid in India, but we got free advertising, so we don't pay anything. And we have set up our ads for anyone who types in learn to meditate or meditate Yogananda. The other keyword terms that we have set up are Kriya Yoga. Why? We just don't want to, we're both working full time, so we don't have time to really work with any other audience. We just want to help people that want to do meditation of master and get Kriya. For other people, that's definitely not the case. If you're starting a meditation group, it'll be meditation in your town. I think it was Columba. It's meditation Columba near me. And then you create a website that has that in the name, or you create an Instagram. I think earlier I was talking about keywords. I should have been more specific, but I believe this pertains to the question you're asking. Hashtags are the way you start connecting with the right people and encouraging people through an incentive to follow the account. You will not believe how many people are coming to your stuff and classes and aren't following your social media or your website newsletter or anything. But it's through communicating individually with people, spending that extra 10 or 15 minutes with each person, giving them so much energy. Think of what Swamiji did. He would write a letter back to anybody who really came to him with genuine heart. And it does take time and it does take energy, but that's what really makes things grow, is when people feel that true connection, which is an impersonal love. It's I love God, I love serving God, God is in you. So when I'm sharing content, I'm serving God in you. You also could do this to kind of revitalize, again, with that vibration. I'm going to put a little thing up on how to yoga posture. The most popular yoga channel is Yoga with Adrienne. Check out her video titles. Yoga for nurses, yoga for pain in the back, yoga for shoulder stretches, simple yoga routine for construction workers. Her titles and everything she does is an exact benefit for an audience. So that's how she reaches the right people. But she does it, there's something called general keywords, which match you to a certain audience that's a broader audience of your funnel versus specific. For us, our general umbrella funnel was around learning meditation. And then our more specific was Yogananda, teachings, Kriya. So you kind of see that. So if you're doing emotional regulation, it could be a broad term, might be wellness for work, wellness for corporate, well-being initiatives for workplaces, whatever, more specific, how to be get along with others, or how to have self-care and have a, you could go on and experiment. But nowadays, the key is to start looking around. And just to go back to Polestar, you want to know what we found for them, along with content ideas. They weren't doing anything to show the community, but it was what they wanted to communicate the most. The other thing we found is, well, a lot of people Google spiritual community and you guys aren't going to be able to come up. They had a new website, they had a brand new social media. So we looked at what kind of phrase is going to be really good for the right people. And they were looking for like urban people with financial success, people who were, really career oriented, but also really interested in an alternative lifestyle. We searched a long time and we found this phrase that people were just starting to talk about called utopic community or something like that. I forget a little bit. Do you remember what it was? It was like utopic something. Anyway, it was a new phrase that was just starting to come out from like Boston and New York. And it was exactly what they were doing, but it was appealing to those like intellectual, career-oriented people who have a spiritual side. And nowadays, like we talked about, there's so many people in the world and you just need to connect with 1,000. So if you think about what could you be doing that's really clear to appeal to those people and make it relevant to them right now. There's a tool called Google Trends. And during the pandemic, how everyone at Ananda saw lots more people coming to their classes. Well, Google tracked that and they found that so pre-pandemic, this is about what people were searching for: meditation. Pandemic started, meditation. Peak of pandemic, meditation was like up here, like beyond where you can see. And then it slowly dropped off as people got to go back to, the other thing that spiked was meditation app. So that's why Ananda during the pandemic redid their app, because they were responding to trends. So when you're doing that funnel, one of the things we did with our wellness healthcare workers initiative is we made those little cards. Do you have it? Could you grab it for us? I think they would love that. So we made cards that were little teasers of the techniques that they could carry on their person, because you can't always have your phone when you're in a hospital. And then they have a QR code, and it takes them to our website where we offer workshops or more info, or just a one-on-one coaching. We use things like Calendly, Zoom nowadays. They do the scheduling for you. And I just would highly recommend, if you're doing your own thing in your own studio, or you're going to go to a friend's studio or a gym, just if you use those features for private sessions. I don't know if many of you know, but there's a devotee, Yudhishthira. He runs Ananda School of Yoga and Meditation in the Bay Area. And he always told me that I get a lot of people in my yoga classes, but people have a certain amount that they're willing to pay. But private sessions is how I supplement. And, he works with really specific people one-on-one, and it really helps him. So he's, would highly benefit from an automated scheduling system. And one of those things that you can do with them is you can tell them how much you want people to pay. It has a reservation policy, and it has like a waiver, and you can attach all of it. We use something called Calendly. So that's really relevant if you're working with, savvy people. But a lot of us find that different generations won't respond to that. So you might find that doesn't work at all. They just won't ever do the virtual. So yeah, these are the cards I was mentioning. So this was our first round, and they had, guess what we did? Surveys, research. We talked to people. We said, what do you like about these? What do you not? Then this is the round 2, completely different cards and much different feel, but it was all based on user feedback. And they're still going to Ananda. They're still going to, some audiences go to Ananda, Australia. Some go to our Be Well Solutions. And that is how we work with our different audiences. So we have, like you were asking earlier, we have different accounts for different purposes and different audiences. And it really helps. Now, when you're prioritizing and setting your timeline, just do something, build a routine that you do once a week. I started with just once a week, Jyotish and Devi. I always do it on Thursday. Then as another client comes on, I add them. Or we add something with Ananda, Australia. But you don't want to do too many things at once. Just do like, I'm going to start my Insta account. I'm going to tell Kalamali, and I'm going to have her look at it by next week. And then make it accountable because you're going to show me. Or send it to a friend, or send it to Amrita and Lata and say, what do you think? But do something, but put a commitment and a date and a goal for yourself. I'm going to have an Instagram account. I'm going to have a goal of 500 followers. I'm going to have a goal of offering 2 classes for this reason. They're called SMART goals. Jyotish talks about them a lot. When we're looking at ourselves spiritually, it's self-management, self-mastery, discipline. So just be strategic is what I'm telling you, so that you're not scattering your energy. And I do have an affirmation for all of us to close with. And I also really want to share that I apologize. I hope I've gotten to everyone's questions at least. I'm going to put the affirmation that I'm going to share with you all. It's from Swamiji's chapter on advertising. Amrita, am I good? This is the right timing to be ending? Yeah, okay. Hold on. I think I didn't share that with everyone. This is a really great affirmation you can do with your team. So for those of you at a center, we always ended our Ananda Center workshops with this affirmation, and it's a meditation as well. But just, we're going to wrap up, even though, you know, we could probably I could talk about marketing forever, but you guys all have my WhatsApp number. But just one more note, this book is like our manual for yoga, teacher training, and meditation. It's like literally the same size, and it's a manual, Yoga of Marketing. So Amrita has the links to that if she feels comfortable sharing them or whatever. Oh, she already shared them. Nara said you already did. Sorry. But yeah, that is a workbook. So it makes, you know, just like we did a workshop, that's a workbook. I highly recommend doing it with your center. Okay, so just pausing, and we're going to get really centered once more. We're going to close with the energy we started with. So just taking a moment to sit upright and lift your gaze. And just taking into your mind once more at the spiritual eye, that visual of a room filled with light. You, a soul, sharing the light with all those perfectly matched souls ready to receive this light through the bridge that you're creating. God serving God. And this affirmation, just repeat aloud. We'll just do it one time through, and then you'll have it in the chat. Repeat after me. The work I do is a shining light to all it touches. I do my best to bring light, love, and shining joy into the dark world around me and into the universe. Taking a moment and feeling the power of this affirmation. The work you do is a shining light. Do not be afraid of sharing that light. We all have a gift, and we have the honor of sharing these vibrations with the world. Thank you all very much.